Now, from the Strand Union Building on the campus of Montana State University in Bozeman, U.S. Senate candidates Conrad Burns, Stan Jones, and Jon Tester face off on Montana PBS Debate Night. Here is your moderator, Jean Brodeur.
Welcome to our audience here at Montana State University, to C-SPAN viewers across the country, statewide viewers of Montana PBS, and listeners of Montana Public Radio. In November, Montana voters will decide who will represent them in the United States Senate. The candidates in this closely watched race are Republican Conrad Burns. He was elected to the U.S. Senate in 1988 and is running for a fourth term in the upper house. Libertarian Stan Jones. Stan ran for the U.S. Senate in 2002 and for governor in the years 2000 and 2004. Democrat Jon Tester was elected to the state Senate in 1988 and elected president of the Montana State Senate in 2005. The candidates have agreed to a debate format that includes questions from our panel: Bob Gibson, managing editor of the Bozeman Daily Chronicle; Andrea Jones, a reporter and anchor for KBZK TV in Bozeman; Cole Arthur is president of the Associated Students of Montana State University. Before the debate got underway, our candidates drew straws to determine the rotation for questions, as well as opening and closing statements. Stan Jones, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Our nation is entering a very dark period in our history. We once were a strong nation built on a foundation of individual freedom and free enterprise, but now we have lost our way. President Bush and the Republicans and Democrats in Congress have taken us into an illegal, contrived, and hopeless war on terrorism. None of the laws they have passed recently will help them fight terrorism. Under Patriot Act 1 and 2, if you are suspected of being an enemy combatant, and that's a term that is very broadly defined, you can be tried by a military tribunal. The trial will be in secret, no public trial. You cannot have an attorney see the evidence against you, have a jury, or the right to appeal. If you should be in contempt, you can incriminate yourself and others. You could be sent to a secret prison without any outside contact. The president has also signed executive orders granting him authority to impose martial law and suspend habeas corpus. This means that you could be jailed for life without charges, without a trial, and without access to a lawyer. Other executive orders give him unchecked power to take control of all of our modes of transportation, seize and control communication media, take over electric power and fuel, register all the people, and mobilize us into work brigades under government supervision. All of this is terrorism of the worst kind, and it has been put in place by our government. We, the people, no longer have the protection of the Bill of Rights. This is no longer the America I know. You cannot save America by destroying America. You can no longer rely on Democrats and Republicans to preserve your rights.
Stan, that would be time. Conrad Burns, 2 minutes opening statement.
Thank you very much, and it's nice to be back to Montana State University. I was here Saturday, and the results was good. This is kind of where it started for Conrad Burns and what we've seen happen in the Gallatin Valley. I can remember on a day just about like this, when it was pretty cold, and then president of this university, Mike Malone, and I sat down and we talked over what could we do for this great state. That was 18 years ago. And since then, there's been a lot of things happen here at Montana State University, this valley, and this state. He was convinced that he had the human resources and the facility to do R&D work in a variety of directions. And he was right. The only thing he needed was some resources. And we went to work on that. That was back in 1989. Montana State University had the largest payroll of any other organization in the county. and we've seen this university grow, but we've also seen a valley grow and offer opportunities in what we would call the non-traditional jobs of Montana, offering opportunities for our young people, students here at Montana State, to go into fields where we didn't have before. And we got that done, both in engineering and agriculture and the food and fiber sectors of Montana, which basically agriculture is still the largest contributor to our GDP. We started a new era for Montana. Now Montana State ranks among the top in attracting R&D and technology transfer into the private sector.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Jon Tester.
Thank you, Gene. I would like to thank Montana State University and the other sponsors for putting this debate on. Also a thank you to Conrad Burns and Stan Jones for being here today, and all of you for spending your evening with us here tonight. I am Jon Tester. I'm a dryland grain farmer from Big Sandy. My wife, Charla, and I farm the land that my grandparents homesteaded nearly 100 years ago. I'm also a former school teacher and school board member. I currently serve as president of the Montana Senate. Throughout this campaign, you've heard a lot from my opponent about how he delivers for Montana. And no doubt you will hear more, and you have heard more tonight, how he delivers for MSU and Bozeman. But I'm here to tell you a couple things. First, it is the faculty and the students that do the heavy lifting here that makes Montana State University a world-class teaching and research facility, not whose name is on a building. Secondly, when it comes to supporting higher education for Montanans, it's important to take a closer look at Senator Burns' record. I've got a kid in college today in Montana and one that just graduated a few years ago. So I know what college education cost you and your families. We have finally started to turn the university funding at the state level around with the first significant funding increases after a decade of neglect. But we can do more. I have a plan to expand the tax credits to make paying college tuition more affordable for Montana families. Senator Burns has voted, to end tuition tax credits for more than 11,000 Montanans. I believe we need to keep low-interest loans and increase Pell Grants. On the other hand, Senator Burns has voted against higher student loans and opposed increases in Pell Grants. At a time when Montana families are paying more for health care, more for fuel and utilities, and more for housing, Senator Burns' record on higher education means middle-class Montana families are paying more in taxes. And too many middle-class families are being priced out of the dream of providing their kids a higher education. Thank you.
That concludes our opening statements from our candidates. They drew straws to determine the rotation for our questions from our panelists. And the first question will be from Bob Gibson for Jon Tester. Bob.
Good evening. 34 Montana projects will receive more than $371 million in earmarked money from the latest federal transportation bill. And each of you has referred to that bill, its size, its process, its direction, at some time as pork barrel spending. Which, if any of those 34 Montana earmarks, do you think qualify as unjustified pork and should be cut from federal funding?
Well, the fact is that the current process of earmarks in the middle of the night without the transparency of the people of this great country is the wrong way for a representative democracy to be working. Projects, and Montana has some great facilities, this being the premier one, our land-grant university, for doing research. Those research projects can stand up to the scrutiny of the light of day. And quite frankly, I don't support earmarks, period. If a project's a good project, and we have many here in Montana, probably many, if not all of these 34, they would withstand the scrutiny of funding in front of the entire body in committee and of the full Senate and House. So to point out, to directly answer your question, I'm not for earmarks because they don't pass the scrutiny of the public, because they're not done in front of the transparency that our government and our forefathers set up for this country.
And